Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Narcissism and Narcissistic Personality Disorder, a Homeopathic Perspective, Part 2. Narcissists are created, not born. My name is Som Jandu, and I'm the president of the College of Practical Homeopathy, and I welcome you and thank you for joining us on this journey and how we view, understand, and try and help people with narcissism and NPD, and also help those who are living with, working with, etc., people who are narcissists and have NPD. We're going to start with a disclaimer. The content presented here is provided by us for educational and informational purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any medical or psychological condition, nor is it a substitute for professional advice or care from a qualified healthcare provider. By listening, you are acknowledging that the information shared is not form of diagnosis or treatment, but more to give you an idea of how we at the college view it. And it should not be used as a replacement for a consultation with medical or mental health professionals. So if you take any actions as a result of what you might learn today, that's at your own discretion and responsibility of yourselves. Okay? So without further ado, let's move along. This is a recap of part one, a one slider. The mindset of narcissists and the mindset of what we call a cancer or a carcinosin mindset. This does not mean people who think like this will get cancer, let me be clear, but we just use that as a no-so that's derived homeopathically. And this is the mental picture of people who, on one side, feel that they're not worthy, they lack self-love, staying on the left-hand side of this table. We might people please, we might suppress our emotions because we don't think our emotions are worthy of being shared and expressed. We have little to no self-esteem. And we find our value in how others perceive us because we do not know how to value ourselves. So often we walk around in this world thinking, I'm not good enough. I am not enough in what I do, present, or provide. Therefore, that makes me overcompensate because I am not good enough. I try too hard. And by doing that, I end up putting everybody else's needs before my own, and I sacrifice my needs, my thoughts, my pleasures for everybody else. Now, if we literally flip that script and get into the head of a narcissist or somebody with NPD, we can see on the right-hand side where narcissists are people who say, well, I'm worthy and I love myself. Other people should love me, in fact. I please myself. I am the best. I'm better than everybody else. I have no issue with my self-esteem. In fact, you guys should worship me and see how wonderful I am. And my value is in how I perceive myself, and I'm surprised how you do not perceive me the same way. I'm enough, I'm good enough, and I don't need to compensate or account or consider anybody else's feelings, emotions, acts, or deeds. Why? Because my needs come before everybody else, and I sacrifice other people for myself. However, there is a difference between narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder. One is a personality trait. Therefore, all of us can display narcissistic tendencies in one way, shape, or form. It could be as simple as if we're going out for a meal, we check ourselves out, look in the mirror, we know we look good. We might attend a social event and dress well. Other people might pay us compliments, and we will say, yeah, I look pretty good today. That's a non-troublesome way of having a bit of self-love and self-value. That's just one example. I'm sure you'll think of many, many. The other one requires diagnosis by a mental health professional, and that is narcissistic personality disorder. And that's the word disorder. That tells us that if we're going to live in society in this day and age and interact with our community, our people, our colleagues, our relationships, we must act in some sort of order. We must be aware of the consequences of our actions and the impact they have on other people. But if we do not, then that is deemed a disorder. Something is not right. And as long as we're living on this planet, we do have to take into account other people. That's why it's termed a disorder. But then to identify it as a disorder, we have to find out which particular behaviors or traits, when grouped together, define NPD as opposed to other types of personality disorders, such as general anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, psychopath, sociopath, etc., etc. So, what are the criteria that will enable a medical or mental health professional to say someone has NPD? So, to be diagnosed as such, this is from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 5th edition, DSM-5. They must have 5 or more of the following. Now, when we go through this list, we might actually relate to 1 or 2 of these behaviors ourselves and think, well, actually, I sometimes think this. That's okay. As we said right at the beginning, we all have a little bit of narcissistic tendencies, and that balances us out. But when it goes too far, that it becomes a disorder, then that is not healthy or helpful. So, what are the criteria? A grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerated achievements and talents, sometimes even to the extent of lying, to make themselves more important or better performing than they actually are. Why? Because we want people to think that we are superior. Even without the achievements, we want to create the illusion of superiority or grandiosity. We might be preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, or beauty. We see that a lot. We'll talk about that later on. Or we might idealize love. Knight in shining armor, whisked off my feet, a whirlwind romance. Words like this. Only the other day I was talking to someone and somebody says, I'm getting engaged. I've known this person for 5 years and 5 months, and he's proposed. Might be okay in some respects. It might be too soon in others. But when they say it was whisked off my feet, my head's in the clouds, the world is spinning, well, that's not reality. So then you watch how that will transpire. But then the third point, believing that they're special and unique, and therefore they are only worthy of associating with other people who are special, unique, high achievers, high status, powerful people, people with money, power, fame, social standing. They want to align themselves with them to create the illusion that they are friends or that they mix in these circles. And what does that do? It creates the illusion that I am superior to other people. It could also mean requiring excessive admiration. Somebody's asking for validation, admiration, praise all the time. What we would say, quite needy. And we'll explore these a bit later on. A sense of entitlement. I deserve to be first in the line. I deserve to be in the first class lounge. I deserve to be served first, have a superior seat, sit in a better office, deserve a promotion. I deserve somebody to treat me well, buy me the best things that money can buy. Why? Because I'm superior. Not because, oh, thank you very much, I really appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. I'm entitled to it. And how dare you buy me, treat me, or give me anything less than the very best? They'd almost consider it an insult. That then leads on to the 6th point of being exploitative, taking advantage of others to achieve their own ends. It could be as simple as saying, well, I'm listening to headphones right now. I'm talking to you with a headphone set. It might be a superior branded headphones. And an artist might say, right, I will take them because I want them. It could be something as a luggage. Buy me the best branded luggage case or branded sneakers, trainers, shoes, etc. Or a branded watch so I can show the outside world that I have these things. These are external items, quite often not paid for by the person, but acquired or induced to be bought for them because they're entitled. People like this will lack empathy. Some covert narcissists can fake empathy because they know it's self-serving. People will then say, oh, what a kind, caring person. They don't care, nor are they kind, but they want you to think they are. So when they leave, you talk about them and say, what an amazing person they are. Everything is self-serving. It's never for anybody else. I met somebody a few weeks ago who was generously giving out money to charities. But then I found out that that person was taking the money off their wealthy partner. So I learned that it's easy to look rich with other people's money. So the one person is giving out the cash, but it's not their cash. They're asking the partner, can you open your wallet and give me X amount of money because I want to give it to this charity, this homeless shelter, etc. That's easy to look rich when you're spending somebody else's money. So other people say, oh, wow, bless you, thank you, you must be amazing. And that's often when other people are watching. Behind the scenes, not a lot goes on. So when we're aware of these, we're tuned in to the subtle behaviors that can give us clues to someone's real deep motives behind. Lacking empathy also means that we're unwilling to recognize other people's feelings or perspectives or even read a room or a situation. Because in a narcissist world or a person with NPD, it's about me, myself, and I. Party of one, I don't need anybody else. If people praise me, good, they should, because I'm great. If they don't, it's their error because they don't realize how great I am. So if they don't realize, why should I even care about what they think? This can come across as being arrogant or haughty in their attitudes and behaviors. We can all think of people with one or two of these things. But when we start going down the line and thinking, oh my goodness, I have a partner, a person, a colleague, a boss, a neighbor, a child, a sibling who has more than these, it should raise alarm bells. I think, right, I don't just have a narcissist, I have somebody with NPD who is destructive and damaging to the welfare of others around them. That is the thing. Welfare of others around them. So today we're going to talk about and go on a journey to say, well, try and understand the development of narcissism and NPD. And we're going to look at how this traces back to our early childhood experiences, environmental factors, psychological factors, and how people who develop and display NPD use it as a coping mechanism or a survival strategy. And then we're going to look at the role of parenting styles, which should be a bit of an eye-opener today as we unveil this. And then we realize in part one, when we said when we at the receiving end of someone with NPD or narcissism, we had coping strategies, and we said was, remember one thing, it's never about you. It's not about you. It will never be about you. The narcissist is using you to gaslight you, make you feel inferior so they can feel superior, put you on the defensive, put you in a narcissistic fog, what we call quagmire, make you doubt yourself, all these things. But it's not about you, it's about them and them projecting their insecurities. Today, we're going to learn how these insecurities manifest that make them project out to others. And once we learn that and we think, well, hang on, narcissists are created, not born. Part one was, it's never about you. Part two, it's actually about them, but it's not even their fault in many circumstances. So we're not passing a blame in either direction. We're trying to understand the journey they've been on. And if we're empaths, we'll say, oh, poor them. Well, that's okay, but don't be sucked in and be at the receiving of the abuse. You understand it, where you can step back, remain objective and say, it's not your fault either. There's not a place to, if we're blaming and putting people at fault, we are not in the mindset to understand. So we're on a journey today, understanding it from a homeopathic lens. Now let's start off with early childhood experiences. This is often a key factor in the development of narcissism and NPD. These experiences can involve things as attachment, validation, parenting styles, and even emotional support. Now let's look at this point. Excessive admiration or overvaluation. Some of us listening will have known about these things. Some of us may even be doing these things or have done these things to our siblings, to our children, etc. Children are excessively praised or idealized by their parents or caregivers. Sometimes it ain't the parents. Sometimes it can be the extended family, the grandparents, uncles and aunts. They can develop an inflated sense of self-worth. You're special. You're gorgeous. You're handsome. You're clever. You're athletic. You're tall. You're slim. You're beautiful. Nothing wrong with these as an isolated comment. But when they're imparted again and again and again, this person's self-belief is, yes, I am this. Better than the rest, better than everybody else, etc. So sometimes we have to be mindful of our words. So these children grow up believing they actually are superior. We can even project this forward to children when they hit their late teens and go off to universities. In the USA, you might have Ivy League universities. Over in England, we have London, Oxford, Cambridge, and a few others. That even on your first day at university, you are told you're an elite student. You have beaten many people for this coveted place at university. You're special, you're superior. And in fact, they amplify that feeling by telling you about all the great people of maths, arts, literature, and sciences who have preceded us at these very universities. How's that for inflating our sense of superiority and ego? Imagine that. So this goes on all around the world. This makes people feel exceptional from a very young age. On the flip side, it can be the exact opposite. Children can be neglected and lack any validation, often being ignored. Sometimes this leads to sibling rivalry, sibling hatred, and therefore they develop narcissistic traits as a coping self-defensive mechanism. They don't develop a healthy sense of self, and therefore we have to look for other external sources of validation because we didn't get it from the people who raised us and nurtured us. And this is a compensatory strategy. That then makes people develop a facade of bravado, acting haughty, showing off to hide the insecurity and the love or the recognition or the praise or just a basic human need to be nurtured, cared for, and listened. It can be as simple as that. And another aspect of this is the emotional abuse or criticism. If a child is treated harshly, made to feel frightened, abandoned, left alone, sometimes I hear stories with my cases, parents say, sit on the naughty step or go to your room and think about what you've done. They get admonished. There's something about consequences, but somebody going to bed without dinner or supper or having their privileges taken away, on one hand, that teaches consequences. But when it's done on a repeated basis, that child believes they are not worthy. So there's that subtle difference. Are you a bad child or you're a good child who's just done a bad thing? And that will make us reflect. And when this is repeated again and again, it changes the way our brain forms. What we would say neuropathways. We develop different neuropathways, and over time, a habit is something that's a repeated thought or a repeated action. So when I'm told this again and again, I believe it. And if it hurts, I have to create an exterior to hide that pain. That might make me vengeful, hateful, competitive, spiteful. But then I might portray that by showing off and pretending that I'm superior to other people. So we start to understand that right from the beginning, how our parenting, our nurturing, and the comments, and even the praise and the focus we give. This is quite deep because we might think, oh my goodness, can I not even praise my child for achievements? You can do what you want if it's your child. But when we get to a stage where we only celebrate a child's achievements, we teach that child that only achievements are something worth celebrating. So that's a bit of a double-edged sword. Sometimes when we deal with cases here, we'll say, don't tell me your child is a genius. And we say the word genie, the genius, genius, the genie in us. So don't tell me how smart your child is. Tell me how your child is smart. Are they smart academically? Are they people smart? Are they smart emotionally? Are they smart with their hands? Are they smart artistically? So there's a number of ways a child can be smart. And we need to find the individualized skill that they have and nurture that and develop that in a healthy, balanced way. Environmental factors. Now, this is the interesting part here. Cultural and societal influences. Some cultural values can promote individualism. You're the best. Be number one. There's no place for number two. Who remembers number three? I don't even know number four existed. Even our sports things, we do bronze, silver, and gold. Everybody else, see you later. Thank you very much for participating. So we can see how society and culture can shape that. Status seeking. This fosters and develops narcissistic behaviors where success, appearance, material wealth, living in certain neighborhoods, attending certain schools, it gives people a sense of segregation, and with that comes superiority or inferiority. And now in the modern world, social media and technology. So maybe the debate for somebody would be, is social media creating a generation of people with narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder. Because now, with the instant gratification, we can post a picture, share a video, we will get feedback and likes from people who we don't even know. Thumbs up, hearts, smiley faces. So I might feel that I'm validated by a bunch of strangers all around the world that I don't even know. That can be quite seductive. It can be quite addictive. Hits the dopamine receptors in the brain where we think, oh my goodness, I'm famous. I'm desirable. I'm in shape. People want to hear what I have to say. Cases nowadays, we see people working out, walking down the street, or even in the gym, taking selfies. In the olden days, the gym was a place you trained, you honed your body, you went home, rest, recuperated, and grew. Now the gym is a fashion show, instant live streaming, pumping iron, getting lots of likes, taking a picture. And if it doesn't give you the instant gratification, delete the picture, try again. We have people trying to beautify themselves with filters to make themselves appear better than they are, to create a life that is an illusionary life. We may go on vacation and show the greatest scenery in the world. So the online world thinks we're having an amazing life. All for this feedback and applause and aplomb and appreciation from people who we don't even know. So that's something worth thinking about as well. Psychological factors. We may develop these as a defense against insecurity and vulnerability and even shame. The thing to remember is people with narcissistic traits and NPD often are very, very insecure little individuals. And they're hidden behind this great shell of arrogance and bravado and fake fame. So inside, though, they're just a frightened, wounded inner child. That's always there. And the older they get, the bigger that exterior is that you can't even get to the innocent child that just needs love and appreciation at the end of it. Isn't that interesting? They have a very fragile self-esteem. A little off-the-cuff remark can put them into a tailspin. It goes right back to their childhood traumas, makes them doubt themselves, may even make them lash out in words or even physically because they feel so hurt. We have a phrase here, hurt people hurt people. If you get an orange and squeeze it, orange juice comes out. If you get a person who's hurting and put the pressure on, hurt comes out in the form of verbal, physical, emotional abuse, rage, withdrawal, silent treatment. Hurt people hurt people. So when we have narcissists and people speaking to us in a certain way, if we can keep our composure, we talked about this in the first part one, how to handle, have strong barriers, don't engage, don't defend, don't justify, don't explain. And then when you can stand there, galvanized, indifferent, in your own space, you can look at them and say, oh my goodness, I see a very hurt, wounded individual lashing out. You don't even have to feel sorry for them. All you have to do is understand them. And then you realize that golden point to say, you know what? This actually isn't about me at all. Never was, never has been, and never will be about me. Rule number one, it's not about you. Rule number two, go back to rule number one. There's very important things. We say this in various different ways, so we get it, and we get it, and we get it, until we start to understand that what their journey is, in a way, is nothing to do with us if we're at the receiving end. But if we have been parenting or caring, we are probably have a part to play in creating this. That allows us to modify our behaviors. It allows us to understand the creation. But if it can be created, the question begs to be asked, can it be uncreated? Maybe we'll have a part 3 about this. Watch this space. We talked about coping mechanisms, and this is a psychological strategy. People might tell me I'm short, I'm not clever, I'm ugly. I will say, you know what, I'm actually quite clever, my height is perfect, and I feel fantastic, and I look great. I might buy extra clothes to overcompensate for any insecurity I have. So this is the ways that we can often see these displays manifested as a coping strategy, psychologically. I'm fantastic, my life is perfect. Is it really? Then why are you going around hurting and abusing other people? Me, myself, and I'm a party of one. I don't need anybody. You actually do. But you tell yourself you don't. Why? Because you're hurt. So you'd rather not need anybody than have people who hurt you. So what do you do instead? Hurt people, hurt people. I'll hurt them first before they can hurt me. Because that makes me superior because I've put them down. If I've put them down, I'm now above them. So when we constantly criticize somebody or dismiss them, we show them that they are not worthy, they are not valued, they have no voice. And they will do the flip of that. So one of the simplest things we could do when we speak or interact with a narcissist or NPD, we flip the script. We stand in our power. We say, it's not about me, it's about them. They're projecting. Whatever they say, just flip the script. I hate you. What they're saying is, I hate me. There's something wrong with you. What they're saying is, there's something wrong with me. You're always at fault. What they're saying is, I was always at fault. You're thick. You're not clever. What they're saying is, I don't feel very clever. If we can actually get into that habit, you will literally be unaffected. And when you're unaffected, then you can remain objective. And when you can remain objective, then you can understand that person. What you do with that understanding is up to you. You can say, hey, I'm not going to play this game. I'm out of here. We can say, I understand you. It's not about me. Walk away. Let them cool off. Stay away. Sometimes they show you their displeasure by giving you the silent treatment. And if you're needy, you think, well, I've been isolated emotionally, socially, cut off from family, cut off from my loved ones. No, just happy, go away, your business. An empowered person says, what does their silence now enable me to do? Because I don't have to interact with the narcissist. In that way, that liberates you and frees you. So when that happens, your own coping strategy, if you're at the brunt end of a narcissist, is what does this space now enable me to do? What you don't do is sit there and wallow and start thinking, well, I could have, should have, would have done this. No, it's not about you. It never has been. What you say is, how am I going to fulfill myself? What can I work on? Not work on so the narcissist appreciates people. They never will. They are on their journey. You're in yours. Like attracts life. Part 1 showed that narcissism is a mirror of the carcinosin mindset. Two sides of the same coin. So when we change ourselves, the world around us changes. The people who treat us a certain way change. Sometimes they fade away. Sometimes they say, you've changed. What they mean is, I can no longer abuse you because you won't take my nonsense. No, I won't. So then they either discard you or they find someone else. And so sometimes we say to people, not everybody you lose is a loss. Right. So now let's look at the role of parenting styles. Just very simply, overindulgent parenting. Putting people on a pedestal. You're fantastic. You're amazing. You're so clever. You're my favorite child. Really? Doesn't say a lot for the other two. But we often say this. So we've got to be mindful of this. Showing favoritism straight away. Inadvertently, subtly, what are we teaching them? That they are entitled to special treatment. We've got to be mindful of our words. Neglectful or abusive. We've covered this a few times now. That has the equal and opposite effect. It still ends up with them thinking they're special, but they get it from elsewhere. Or they might lash out and say, well, you didn't care about me. So you made me this way. Inconsistent parenting. 1 minute they're a favorite child, next minute they're admonished, then they're ignored, then they're abandoned. The child gets confused. There's no consistency. So they do not learn how to regulate emotional responses and emotional behavior. So we're going to go through some scenarios now. So what we just covered is the creation of narcissists is multifaceted, and it's a combination of early childhood experiences, environmental influences, and psychological mechanisms. So narcissists develop these to cope with the world they're in, to cope and get over the emotional neglect and abuse and hurt, or to amplify and exacerbate the superiority that they have felt all their lives. If I'm told I'm brilliant from day one, I'm not going to accept anybody who tells me otherwise because my parents, my grandparents have told me I'm awesome. Imagine that. Once we understand this, it can give us the better tools to help them therapeutically and understand them socially. So let's cover a couple of scenarios and see how this manifests. And we're going to show some what we in the homeopathic world call rep work, where we put some rubrics together to explain some scenarios. Now, again, as we said with the disclaimer, This does not mean that this is how you would treat someone who's been raised in this environment. It shows how you might pull out rubrics like this, which might lead to certain remedies that gives you a starting point for a discussion. But if you're not a qualified homeopath or a healthcare professional, you're not able to go down this pathway and just give them a remedy. Why? Because we don't know what else that person is taking. They may be on medication. They may be on allopathic drugs. They may be on recreational drugs. They may have certain body parts missing. So just to take what we're going to embark on next and say, well, I'm going to give this remedy because I know someone who does this, you cannot see the complete picture, which is why we say this is for educational purposes, not for healthcare provision. Please see a qualified homeopath and ideally a CPH homeopath who understands the complexity of people presenting in this way. Right, we did a workshop and we broke out and we come back and presented back how different parenting styles and environmental factors can lead to behaviors and how we might explain that homeopathically. So let's go on this journey together. If somebody is raised with a false sense of security, how do they learn to cope with neglect or rejection? So a child who's emotionally neglected may develop a false sense of superiority. You ignore me, I'll show you how special I am. I'm up in my own head, I'm in my own world, and I think I'm awesome. Why? Because I don't want to feel the pain of being ignored or abandoned. Isn't that amazing? We flip the script for them as well. We start to understand them. Another example, child who feels rejected by a parent or caregiver, create an internal narrative. I'm better than the rest. That's why they ignore me. I'm too good. All my other siblings need the attention because they're needy. I'm fantastic, so therefore I'm being ignored. Because I'm perfect. I don't need the attention. We can start to see what goes on in someone's head. Isn't that amazing? And when we rep for it, these are some of the rubrics, is what we call them in the homeopathic world, that these are some of the feelings that somebody may present with if they're raised in this environment. We can look to the right-hand side and see some remedies. Like I said, this is not about chasing a remedy today. It's about uncovering the emotions to open up a discussion to lead to greater understanding, and then work with a professional to see how we might help. Now, going back to part one, if a narcissist comes to you for help, which is very, very rare because I'm perfect, I'm a narcissist, I don't need your help. In fact, you should turn around and tell me how perfect I am and I'm done. And in fact, I'm so superior, I don't think you're a very good homeopath. So that's one of the fallacies of dealing and treating people. However, if we're parents or in responsible care for someone, we might recognize your traits and think, right, I think I need to talk about my child and I might need some help. So this allows us to open up a discussion about the way the person's been feeling with your healthcare provider to work towards a better solution. Another example, grandiosity. If a child is frequently criticized or dismissed, they develop this air of grandiosity as a coping mechanism. So the theme we're getting is that narcissism and NPD is a coping mechanism to the hurt the person has had their whole life. They weren't born this way, they were created. That is the take-home message for part two. So then they might exaggerate their abilities and achievements. I'm awesome. I'm the fastest runner on the field. I'm the cleverest kid in school. I'm the strongest guy in the gym. Who actually cares? Why do you need these accolades? To hide and compensate the fear of inadequacy and the shame that's been instilled in them by others. So for a person at the receiving end of narcissism, we tell them it's not about you. To a narcissist, we don't tell them because they say, of course it isn't, I'm perfect. We understand them and think, well, it's just not your fault. You were created. It's like Frankenstein being created by Frankenstein creating his monster. So we get it. One's the producer, the other is the product. And the product is what we're frightened of. We don't need to be frightened. We need to be aware. We don't need to be compassionate. We just need to understand. It's our choice, depending on the relationship we have with these people, where we want to take this next step. A person can be belittled by their peers or parents. They might develop a need for recognition to overcompensate for that inadequacy. So again, this consistent theme. But therefore, they want to prove their worth. Sometimes they say, well, I will show them. If I'm raised up in a group of siblings when I'm probably the shortest or the least academically achieving or least physically superior, I will find a way to say, I'll show them. Maybe I didn't go to university and the rest of my siblings did. I'll show them I become a wealthy entrepreneur. Maybe I wasn't so athletically endowed. So I'll say, well, I'm the brainiac and I'm the nerd. I've got this. It's interesting to see and observe. Only people on the inside will know this. So these are some of the rubrics of the mindset of a person who's raised in this way. If people reading this say, what does Murphy 3 mean? There's a homeopath called Robin Murphy who created this fantastic book called The Materia Medica and Repertory. So this is from the third edition of his book, and it's all about the mindset. That's where these are derived from. All the homeopaths listening in will know exactly what's going on here. And if we read down the line, we can see some remedies ranking in score from highest to lowest. But the remedy is the least concern, because the remedy will only come up if we choose the right mindset, which what we call rubrics. So it's the selection of the rubrics by understanding the individual case that we can say, I think I need to start working in this area with this person. Emotional detachment, coping with abandonment. If a child is abandoned emotionally, they might lack empathy. It might make them feel vulnerable, alone, uncared for, rejected, and neglected. These are things that come out of this third slide. So now we start thinking, if we're homeopaths, about the kind of rubrics we might pull out if we have someone who's raised or grown up in this environment. And again, for the illustration, we have different emotions here. They might lead to suppress their emotions. Their feelings of being abandoned. They feel detached. They might be apathetic. I don't care. They have this indifferent feeling. I don't care about anything anymore because it ain't worth caring, because every time you care, you get hurt. That's what they're going through. But as we said, hurt people hurt people. So this manifests and gets displayed by their evilness, viciousness, lack of empathy, lack of compassion, self-absorption. Projection, coping with shame or guilt. So they project outward the very things that we were talking about this today and in the last session. Attributing their own negative traits and projecting their feelings onto others. You're ugly, meaning I feel ugly. You're fat, which means I feel fat. You never achieved anything in your life, which means I don't feel I've achieved anything in my life, which is why I have to brag and make up stories that I'm great. So that's what projecting means, putting my own internal thoughts and feelings, but turning in a way that I'm making the other person, attacking them, making them feel as horrible as I feel. We often say life is a mirror. So to someone in a relationship with a narcissist, you are their mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the one who's going to receive all my abuse? That is what a narcissist mind is. Because when they look in the mirror, they see all the traits in them. And if you're in a situation where you've done better than the narcissist you're in, a sibling, a romantic relationship, a parent, or a work colleague, you can never share it with them. They won't praise you because all you've done is highlight their own inadequacies back. Therefore, they'll have to find a way to put you down so they can feel superior again. So that doesn't lead to a healthy relationship. You've almost got to tread on eggshells, hide your own successes and achievements. That's not how relationships should be. They should be where people are celebrating each other's successes. But narcissists cannot do that. It makes them burn. It makes them remember all the inadequacies they had. So we have these mindsets of admonition, guilt, shame, lacking self-confidence, feeling insecure. So we've seen that every environment that the person has been raised in, grown up in, nurtured in, by taking a full case history and understanding things that are specific to them, we can hone in and tailor, which is what homeopathic medicine always is. It's tailored, individualized medicine, focused on that person's unique experiences, which is why these are for illustration only. Narcissistic rage. If you hurt someone's self-esteem, criticize them, reject them, often they come back with rage. Physical, verbal, emotional, slamming things, going out the house, stomping their feet. Because they've been threatened. They may have been called out. If you fact check someone, I did this. No, you didn't. I checked it out. You're lying. That can lead to absolute rage because now you've taken off their facade. You've cracked the shell to show the scared, vulnerable, frightened person inside. And then they might get defensive. So how will they react that way? If you corner a dog into a corner, it's going to come out lashing out at you. It's not going to whimper and give up. It's going to attack because it's cornered. So when a narcissist is in this position, they will come out all guns blazing. So that's a different mindset, different rubrics. So this is what they might feel and they might go through. We might need a need for external validation. We haven't done any emotional support in our life. I need it from my peers, from teachers, from a romantic partner. And even if I'm with a romantic partner, I might go out on dinner with them, but I might be so needy for external validation, I will scan the room to see who else is admiring me, validating me, telling me I'm handsome or I'm pretty or I'm gorgeous. And that can put a strain on relationships because of their self-serving need. Why do they need this? Because inside they feel empty and inadequate. And there's a void, there's a gap, a deep-rooted emptiness that they're trying to fill externally, but by fake praise from people who don't even matter. Because the person they're in the relationship with or worship with, they will tell them genuinely, but it's not enough to fill this massive void that has been there since they were young. Very fragile self-esteem narcissists have. So again, we've got some interesting rubrics here and mindsets here. How do we feel when we've been devalued, feeling inferior or abandoned? That makes us feel threatened, vulnerable, not worthy of love because I've been abandoned. They're showing me how little they care about me by leaving me alone, by ignoring me. So I have to develop a coping mechanism around that. So that's what we see. But what we say at CPH here is, what is the cause? The cause is these feelings of inadequacy and being vulnerable. And actually just scared little people wanting love and validation. And that brings out a different cluster or clump of mental, emotional feelings and emotions. So we can see how being a homeopath is a very powerful adjunct to helping people overcome this. The challenge will be to get them to talk about their life. Because what will you hear? Life is perfect. I'm fantastic. I'm awesome. I was the better sibling. I'm the better partner. They've never had someone as good as me in their life. I'm the best colleague. I got a promotion. So you can't crack that shell. But remember, by understanding this, if you flip the script, you will understand you're dealing with a narcissist. Why? Because as we did on the first few slides, the DSM-5 will give you the traits. So when people name drop, oh, I was out with an actor, I was out with so-and-so, I'm driving this car, I was in a certain golf club or a spa, they name drop. They have to, everything they do has to elevate. They're walking with branded items. It's okay having brands. If you worked hard, enjoy it. But when they make a point of making you aware of their superiority, their grandiosity, their associations with high people, money, power, or fame, these are flags that say, I could be dealing with someone with NPD here. That this is all smoke and mirrors. I had an American phrase, big hat, no cattle. So that lets me delve deeper into something else. We'll do one more. Smearing and gaslighting. The child who's made to feel inferior, made to feel that their voice, their opinions don't matter. So they will then appear, they will adopt smearing and gaslighting to deflect the attention. They make you doubt what you say. They might talk derogatory about a sibling, colleague, or a relationship to make them look like the good one or the savior or the victim. Oh, they're so bad to me. Do you not know? To get people on their side. So that discredits others and then elevates them. So this is another coping mechanism. Everyone might praise my colleague. So what I do behind the scenes, well, they wouldn't be so lucky if it weren't for me. Did you know I helped them get where they were? Did you know I got them the job? I referred them here. They're in great shape. I took them to the gym and showed them how to do things. So somehow we want to take the credit for them, and then we also want to discredit them. that they will be nothing without me. So we can start to see these in everyday dialogues. And I'm sure you guys listening in will have thousands of your own experiences here, which is why you're tuned in. So we have different sets of rubrics for people who might think like this. The interesting one is their malicious behavior. We don't have to go and hurt people physically. We can hurt them without them knowing they're being hurt by a smear campaign, triangulating them with others, smearing their reputation, defaming them, slandering them. They're not really that good. Did you know so and so went to jail once? Did you know that they did this once? But we don't talk about that now because they're doing so well. Well, that's a backhanded compliment because they put a seed of doubt in other people's heads to make it appear that this person is not worthy of the praise. Because anytime you talk about somebody else, what are you doing? You're not talking about the narcissist. And they won't and they cannot have that happen. Hope that makes sense. So, that is a walk through the parenting styles. I hope you do visit this once it's released and revisit this and ask and think about it. Kristen, if anyone else is there, our panelists, do we have any questions or comments from the audience?
Yes, we had one question, and for some reason, I was unable to message back to the entire group. So the question is, do you have any book recommendations? Which I know you do. So could you tell any book recommendations about narcissism?
Okay. I'll start you with one now, and when we post this on YouTube in a few days' time, I'll put a list of other book recommendations on there, okay? And the reason I'm going to post this one, share this one right now, and hopefully someone can write it in the group chat so it's spelled correctly for those listening in. It's because it talks about a certain trait of narcissism that is not very well known, even by the psychologists. It's called the covert, passive aggressive narcissist. Now, and the author is a lady called Debbie Misra. It's a fantastic book because it's a little bit unique. And it's unique because a narcissist is someone who's loud, proud, in your face, showing off. But the covert person is gentle, empathetic on the surface. And people say, oh my goodness, they're so wonderful. So if you talked about them, they'll say, are you sure you're not the narcissist? Because they've done such a wonderful job of convincing everybody in your world how wonderful they are, they will find it hard to hear your truth. And then in your head, you'll say, am I going crazy? And in your head, you'll tell people, try living with them because you see them for the 10 minutes or the 1 hour a day where they're on display. There you go. There's a somism. You see them for the 1 hour in the day when they are on display. They're putting their best foot forward. They're putting on their game face. But when that comes home and the mask goes off and they're at home, they're a right terror. They're a tyrant. They're bossy. The people are frightened. They don't even want to be in the same room or the same house. So that's a covert, passive-aggressive narcissist. And in that book, Debbie goes into relationships, which is predominantly the main thing for narcissism. But she talks about workships, siblingships, colleagueships, friendships, and even parentships. So, and that's an eye-opening book because all the other books on narcissism talk about the stuff we've just covered here, but in much greater depth. But that book will make you think, oh my goodness, this person was overly nice. And it makes you see it from a different point of view. I will put another 3 or 4 books because there's quite a few. There's also another one's called Disarming the Narcissist. But start slow and take it one thing at a time. I'll tell you why. Because if you focus all your attention on the negativity, you will draw more negativity to you. You don't get rid of darkness by fighting darkness. You just turn the light switch on. We talk about this in homeopathy. You don't get rid of disease by fighting the disease. You restore the wellness. So when we take a case, we say, we want to study your life and understand when wellness left you. Because when it left, illness manifested. So here, you can understand a narcissist to see you, what you've been through, or someone who you care about is going through. And then that opens up a discussion. It creates a support network, which we talked about in part 1. It also gives you deeper understanding. What we say from a neuro-linguistic programming point of view, it removes filters so you can see through the facade, and then you're more tuned in and tapped in, tuned in, turned on to people's dialogue, language, and behaviors, and you think, wow, this looks like a bit of a narcissistic behavior. So you can identify it sooner, act on it quicker, and help people stay sane and healthy. Any other questions, Kristen?
Just to go along with that, if you have any book recommendations for parenting styles, someone had asked about that, if that could be included. I said I would ask. So,
Okay, we will put something in the YouTube link when we post this in a few days' time, so you can watch it again, listen to it again, and have that. There are some books out there. Parenting styles is quite interesting, and I will put a link out on the YouTube. The reason not now is because I've forgotten the resource at the top of my head. Any other questions?
well, a couple of comments saying thank you so much. This has been a wonderful set of webinars, so I did want to put that out there.
Okay.
Several people have said they've learned a lot. Another question, could you suggest some rubrics for the covert narcissist?
You know what? I can, and I might just put that on the YouTube as well. Because if the covert is narcissist, you can do it yourself if you're a homeopath. What would their behavior be? Empathetic, compassionate, sensitive. It could be deceiving, secretive, malicious. Again, this is be general rubric, you see, but we at CPH take it on a case by case. So what we'd say is it depends on the context of the person we're talking about: parent, child, partner, boss, colleague, neighbor. Now I'm going to stall for a few moments because we said when we put this flyer out, we said there might be a surprise announcement. Now this is just a scratch of the surface that we've covered here over 2 short webinars. But I'm also learning every day. When I learn and talk to people, it helps me create content like this that we can then share with homeopaths and anyone just generally interested. Now, I'm wondering if people will find value in a third part where we don't do much talking like this, that they can just do a Q&A with us or give us specific scenarios and we can work through them. If you think that's useful, please just put it in the comments right now. We'll do a quick little collation, so we'll wait a minute or two. Because you might say, well, we've got a case, we want to cover this, or I've got a son who's like this, or I might have a partner like this. So it's not to make it into a discussion group. There'll be plenty on social media for that. But it lets us get our teeth into something if you think it's useful. The reason why I'm offering this is such a big topic. It's going to mushroom over the next decade. This is going to be the biggest challenge facing everybody in the Western world, in the social media world. We haven't even got started with narcissism yet as a society across the globe. So this is to educate, empower, and inform people who are suffering or dealing or raising or helping people with narcissism or NPD. That's the reason we want to do this. It's our service back. So if you think a third one would be useful, content will be created. We may even do it in a month to collate that. So what I'd say for those listening, once you've heard this, go onto the YouTube. We'll have that open forum in the comments. Maybe put in the comment section there to allow you to reflect and think and decide what you need. We have a way to shape these discussions going forward. Other than that, any other questions, comments, or observations?
Yes. There was a question, does ADHD predispose the child for narcissism as the parents have to give a lot of attention to that child?
No, it doesn't predispose because ADHD as a separate need is a separate need. If that child has ADHD, again, I'd say work with a qualified homeopath who would help you work along that. That is manageable. We cannot use the word treatable, and because it's a diagnosis named ADHD. But if you have a child who has difficulty paying attention, if they're a little bit hyperactive, cannot sit still, bit restless. See, we're using different words here. We're not using an allopathic name. Talk to your homeopath. Reach out to a CPH homeopath. Go to the website, find someone near you, or go and get treated. Have the initial discussion. It costs you nothing. Work on that first. That doesn't mean they have special needs. It's the same as if we had a disabled child. They're gonna need special needs. So that need comes before everything else. That doesn't make them narcissistic. It just means that they actually have a special need. But if I have a fully able-bodied child and I have multiple children, but I treat one extra special, that is creating narcissism because they're all equally able and they don't have a special need. It's not they have the need, it's am I giving them special attention where it's not warranted, i.e., favoritism. If it's born with a need or a need is created where they may, God forbid, have an accident and become quadriplegic or paraplegic, of course that's a need. That's not narcissism. That's just loving and caring for your child. Subtle difference, but a very important difference. Any other questions?
Yes. If someone fits the carcinosin mindset to a T, would you consider the remedy carcinosin as a possibility for them?
Yes, yes, and yes. If they fit it to a T, yes, we would consider it, and yes, it would be a possibility. No, it doesn't mean that that is what would be given because it's a possibility and it's a consideration, but it's not a definite. But it will certainly form one part of the criteria that the homeopath would look at and say, well, if they fit it to a T and they're doing that remedy picture, it's almost like they need it. As we say at CPH, it depends because we don't know if the person's on drugs. If they're on allopathic drugs for something, anything, the body is changed by virtue of the drug they're on. Now, in the Western world, a iatrogenic disease, diseases caused by drugs we're taking, is one of the largest killers other than cancer and heart attacks and diabetes. So when we take a foreign object like a drug, medical or recreational, it affects our body, our system, our organs, and it can create its own pathology. So it would be wrong of me to say they need carcinosin because I don't know what else they've been through. They may have had an operation. They might have had a pancreas or gallbladder removed or tonsils. They may have had a hysterectomy. So the body's not functioning in its totality. Therefore, I might need to give some organ support. They may have organs failing, kidney disease, liver cirrhosis. So just by giving a remedy, I'm taking it out of context of the individual's case. So it's a very good question to ask. It would definitely be something that's considered. Would it be the only thing? Not necessarily, because it depends on the client presenting. Hopefully that answers and puts a bit of context. There's different ways of applying homeopathy. We at CPH, we're practical. We will often cases use more than one remedy, and we will very often combine them. Not everybody thinks that way, and that's also okay. So every practitioner will do it differently. But at CPH, we train our practitioners to do what they need to do to help that client on their healing journey. Any other questions?
Yes. What should I do if I recognize some of these narcissistic traits in myself?
That's very good. So, first of all, well done if you do, because we all have them. I would refer you back to our first 10 minutes of part one, where we say we are all a little bit narcissistic and we all are a bit carcinosin mindseted. Two sides of the same coin. But if you feel that they might be encroaching where it's affecting your interactions with human beings, maybe speak to someone. Please don't try and self treat. We have a phrase here where we say you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So talk to another healthcare professional. It's very good that you're aware, so you have some self awareness. That alone will probably mean you don't have NPD, but you might be a bit of a narcissist. So what? If you're not hurting anybody else, good luck to you. But if you think it can affect your relationships, you may want to delve a little bit deeper and speak to somebody. So well done. It's very big it's very insightful when we can stand and say, you know what? I think I have some of these qualities or traits that I think I probably need to work on. That's just good, healthy self awareness and self development. Thank you for asking them. Anything else?
That's all the questions that have been posted, but there's an overwhelmingly positive response to a possible third
Good.
webinar. Everybody has saying, I've loved this, taking notes like crazy, have learned so much. So very thankful for these webinars. So lots of good
You know,
feedback.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are glad that you found it useful. Please do interact with us. Our email is admin@thecph.co.uk. Please reach out if you want to contact me directly. It's som@thecph.co.uk. If you don't want to do it that way, leave some comments and questions on the YouTube when it's linked in the forum. And if you do want a third one, give us some ideas. We will shape it and we will create it. And let's empower people out there to help other people lead better, healthier, balanced lives. If that's nothing else, I would like to thank you for attending, and I will stop this recording. Give us a few days and you will get notification when it's out there.